Hi, this is Kyle Wankin, student ID 0006816 for Network Management 2, and what we're going to do today, we are going to install Zabbix monitoring server on the CentOS 9 platform, operating system platform. And what we're going to do, we're going to use Zabbix to monitor our devices on the network. We are going to monitor routers, Windows machines, and yes, the Zabbix server itself. Now, we are going to go through some installations that we will have to do, and we are also going to show you how we install and configure the Zabbix server. So here we have text files. Now, I would have done a series of installation and configuration, but to save time, I created a text file and I also saved some slides to show you my processes. So I will go through the text file first and then I will go through the slides. The text file is to show you the steps I would have taken to deploy this server, so that I did not actually record it in a timely manner, but I did take the snapshots of each time I would have installed each particular service. So what we did is that we installed updates first on the CentOS 9, and then we installed the Zabbix repository. This holds all the Zabbix files that we need to install, and then we clean the actual installation updates, right? Then we install the Zabbix server, the front-end agent, with this command. Then we install the SQL server, which is the database created to host all these Zabbix information, the files and the log files that will be stored, and all the different attributes that will be stored. And then what we did is that we started the SQL server with these commands here, and we also checked the status. I will go over all these things in each slide. And then we created an initial database with this command, and we use these other commands here to create the database. Alright, and then we went on to the Zabbix server host, import initial schema and data. This is also setting up the Zabbix server. Then we disable the login trust function creators option after importing the database, so that it wouldn't take control. We configure the database for Zabbix server, right? We actually went into the file, we edited this file using gedit, okay, and we changed the database password to password 1. Then we start the Zabbix server and agent process using these commands here. So that is actually for the agent to be able to start and for the Zabbix server to start. The front end. And then what we did as well is that we actually started the Zabbix services. So these are the commands to stop the server, start the server, and check the status of the Zabbix server. Well, what we did was actually use the firewall to allow certain ports onto the firewall. A particular addition could have been done here if I copied it. Okay, if I undo, copy, and paste, we could actually use the 161, which is for SNTP 161, and that is UDP. We could actually allow that here, but I decided that I will just take off the firewall on the whole for testing purposes, so I disabled the entire firewall. I also used the command to install the SNMP utilities, which was what would have added, which was the reason why we would have needed this firewall opening here, this port opening. But as I said, I removed that feature. Okay. Then we open the Zabbix web page. This is the example on how to open the web page. The host is actually the IP address, I would have used IPA to constantly check the IP address, which I will show you guys later. The mntui is the command I would use to configure the IP networks. The host IP I gave to the Zabbix server was 192.168.20.98, which is what I would have used here. For example, this is it here. The web login would have been username, admin, password, Zabbix. So I have saved that to my browser, so it's automatically there. The configuration on the router would have been done on the R2 router, which is the default gateway, right? And also the router that I will want to monitor as well. On the router itself, this is the commands I would have put in to allow the Zabbix server to contact the router via SNMP. So I would have used the community string, not admin, but for my case, I would have used the community string Zabbix. Not Zabbix, Zabbix. As you can see here, there's the community string, the version of SNMP, the IP address of the host of the server that's going to monitor the SNMP, which is the Zabbix server, and the UDP port. Okay, so moving forward, I will go on to the slides and I will show you exactly what I did. So here I would have installed the updates. Okay, this is the command. Then I would have installed the repository, where it would have installed all the files being used to install the Zabbix server on the front end and the agent. I would have installed the MySQL, the Zabbix server on front end and agent. This is the command here. And then I would have installed the MySQL server using this command here. And then I would have installed the browser. This is the only thing I did not say inside here. I had to install the web server itself, HTTPD. Then I would have started the MySQL and check the status of it. As you can see, it's running. Well, here is where I would have started the other processes, which is meaning that I was already into the Zabbix, the CentOS server. I went ahead and I installed all the I would have created the initial database. I would have on the Zabbix server host import initial schema and data. I would have disabled the logbin trust function creators option after importing database. Okay, and I would have configured the database for Zabbix server by editing the file and creating the database password, which is password 1. Now I would have installed here I would have started the Zabbix server and the agent process. These are the two commands that would have done that, right? And I would have done an IPA to check my interfaces on the CentOS server. So this interface here would have GNS3 would have been for my outside internet service, and the GNS35 interface would have been for my subnet internally. The GNS160 would have been down due to that I did not set up the interface properly. This interface would have allowed me to download all the information I needed that I previously had, meaning that I would have bridged the network to the my outside network that actually has the internet, because this is a VM. So what I did is that I typed in the command sudo nmtui, which got me to the interfaces, and I would have configured the interface GNS160 with an IP address for my outside network, which is 50.0. the default gateway, which is to the internet, and I would have activated the interface. Upon activation of the interface and everything is working fine, I would have done an IP address, and you would see that the interface came up, okay, with saying up, and it would have a IP address of 98. Well, this one says 198, but I changed it to 98. Okay, so you get the drift. It's all about making sure the IP address works. It is now 50.101 from practicing different IP addresses. I went to the Windows PC, right, my Windows 10 PC, and I configured the agent. I installed the agent, a 64-bit agent. The version is 7.2.5, the Zabbix. I would have configured the host name of my computer, which is win-full. The Zabbix server that will be monitoring 192.168.20.98. Obviously, this was changed to this proper format here. The listening port is 10,050. Okay. Then I went on to install, as you can see, the SNMP package, which install everything that is needed for SNMP. And then I restarted the web services. I restarted the Zabbix server, and I checked the status of the Zabbix server, which said it was running. I also restarted the MySQL after I did all of these things, and I also checked the status of the MySQL. It said that it was running. I also restarted the front agent as well as enable it so that it could actually reconnect all the information to the Zabbix server. I actually went on and I restarted the SNMP services and checked the status of the SNMP service, so that this way what happens is that when you take off your VM and you restart it, when you go to the browser and you put in the IP address and the URL to start the Zabbix dashboard, it does not start regularly because you have to restart the database. So these are the commands I use to restart the database, the SNMP services. Okay, sorry about that. This command here, sorry about that. The MySQL is what I use to restart the actual service for the web browser dashboard to come up, but these are the services these are the commands I use to restart the SNMP on the Zabbix server, so that it can pick up all the information it needs from the routers, because the routers are using not a Zabbix agent, but they are using SNMP protocol 161. Alright, so this is also the file I would have used to configure. As I told you guys, I had to edit a particular file, so that what happened was that if I did not edit these files, this file here, the router would not have, the Zabbix server would not be able to pull the information from the router. So I had to go into this file and edit this particular line here, comment out the line, so that it would have removed the comment, so that it would have been be able to use by the Zabbix server. And I put the community string, which is Zabbix, right? The community string set to the one on the router, Zabbix. All right. This is the Zabbix dashboard. As you can see, I did some commands here to get the dashboard running, but as I said, the real service needed to be restarted was the MySQL service. So when I did that, I got the dashboard to come up. As you can see, this is my IP address for my Zabbix server that I had previously on the IPA, explaining to you guys. Okay, so this is my dashboard here. Next. Okay, so this is the dashboard. This is the actual dashboard, how it looks. As you can see, I only had one host available at the time, but by the time we finish this video, you would have seen I set up a few hosts and devices onto the Zabbix server. So what I did, next is that I went to data collection, host groups, and I created one host group which was for Cisco devices. I went to host groups, I went to Cisco devices. Well, actually I went and create host groups, and as you can see I named it Cisco devices. Then I went to data collection host, and after I created that one host group host itself, I created a few hosts as well. As you can see, there's a list of hosts I created. R1, I'm going to just show you an example of one or two each, because for time's sake. So for R2, I went create host, and inside the create host, this is what I did to configure the host. I named it Win Server. I went to templates, which is the templates group, and I got some templates there, right, where I could have used, and also templates and templates group are similar, but I went to the templates actually, and I added the ICMP ping and the Windows Zabbix agent. It was under the host groups, virtual machines. I gave it the IP address of the server itself and the listening port on the server that will be able to get the information from the Zabbix agent. And I gave a description. This other one here is for R2. This is also under the same host configuration. I gave it the name R2. I put it under the host groups Cisco devices, and under templates I gave it the generic by SNMP, okay, which will just be for SNMP. As you can see, I gave it the IP address of the router and the port of the router, 161. In the macro section, right, for the router 2, I went into the macro section, and this macro was set up for this particular SNMP community string, which was Zabbix. As you see, I configured that. Later down you will see me configure that. I would have configured that on my router. For the Zabbix server, this is the host I did for the Zabbix server. I named it Zabbix Server. I put the host groups as Zabbix Servers. As you can see, for the templates, I'm using the Zabbix agent, right? Because the Zabbix agent is what was installed on the server itself. I gave it its host, the returning host address, right? 127.0.0.1. So it'll know that it's itself, and the listening port is 10,050. I also went after to data collection and discovery. Discovery is used so that you can see what discovery, what is the local network you're trying to discover all this information on. I set the interval to 1 minute, and I used the ICPM ping and the SNMP version 2 agent, which is installed on the routers, and then I enabled it. As you can see, I came here, I put local network 192.168.20 from 1 to 254. I give it an update interval of 1 minute, so it'll be updating regular rather than taking long for every 5 minutes or hour. I did an ICMP ping, allow direct, and I also it what it checks for, and I also let it check for the SNMP agent, and this is an OID number. These OID numbers are found on the routers. It will tell the Zabbix agent, well, the SNMP agent, what to look for. It's a specific number that you look for based on the type of router you have. Okay, so that is what I did to set up for the host. Then we all come to the email, right? So what we want to do is set up email as well. So we went on to Gmail, and we got to a section where you can allow less secure apps to access the Gmail email that you have. I went also into the Gmail account by clicking on the top of your Gmail circle where you have your picture, and then you click manage the Gmail account, the Google account. You go to security, and then you search app password, which is actually here, right? Let's secure apps, and then I created obviously to create a new specific password type name for it below. So you create a name for the app, password, and then they give you a password of their choice. So that is a secure way for them to know that you don't have to create your own password. They give you a secure password of your choice. And then we go back into Zabbix, we go into the users tab, we go into users, and then we go to admin. Obviously admin is a default user. We go inside here and we edit it, right? When we go to edit it now, we go as admin, username is admin, name Zabbix, last name administrator, and I added the groups. So I selected internal network devices, Windows operating systems, Zabbix administrator. I changed the password. Obviously the password was set with the password that was given from them, and I changed the time, so it will be our time base rather than a time base. Not accustomed to, because you want to make sure that when you get the emails, it is always based on your current time in your country, right? So then I went to the users, the same user section on the user, but I went to the media part of it, and I created the email. I chose email as the type, sent to my email address, right? And I clicked enable to make sure that it was enabled. Click update, and this is what the updated media for the email, for the forwarding of the email, would have been created right here. So then I went to alerts, media types, and I would have looked at the media type, and I would have said, okay, email, this is what I want to set up, right? The email, as you can see, SMTP server for the SMTP mail server, smtp@gmail.com. Bruno Blatif was the email I used. I went in there and I put the settings in, and I clicked enable, and I clicked test, and test sent me an email, test subject. This is a test message from Zabbix. After that, now I came out, and then I went to alerts, and then I went to actions, and then obviously these are the trigger actions. I clicked on report problems to Zabbix, and when I went to here, yes, you can see report problems to Zabbix. I created a list of items that I would want Zabbix to report to me from. So the R1, R2, the Win server, the Win full, and the Zabbix server. I clicked enable, and I clicked update. This is everything that was completed here. This was all the hosts that were added to the trigger actions for when something occurs. I went now to the data collection, where I can find all my hosts. This is where you find all your hosts, right? You can actually go on each item, the triggers and the items, and choose how many different items you would like for it to be able to view. I will show you after how it looks, so you can get a listing. All these are actual hosts on the network. As you can see, I got up at this point in time, I had 3 of my devices being monitored, and I had to get one more of my devices monitored eventually. As you can see, eventually I got all my devices to be monitored after some configurations on the R2 host, and it was done correctly, and after restarting, so you can see all my devices are being monitored. Green means availability is up. I did not get one more. I didn't get R1 to be configured in the time that I wanted to before I did this video. As you can see, I also did a simple test where I shut down my interface on my R2 router, right? And when I shut it down, it became unavailable. So if you realize here, it was available here, and when I shut it down, it became unavailable, right? And as you can see, problem on R2, which means that the interface was down, as you can see right here as well, right? Obviously it was resolved. I brought it back up. Before that, I brought it back up and I put it back down, so you can see that when it comes back up, it actually says resolve R2 Cisco iOS unavailable by ICMP ping, right? That was the issue. and then I got emails concerning the high ICMP ping loss. As you can see, it emailed me to let me know that I have a problem on my network. As I was telling you earlier, these are the template groups. Obviously the templates are different, I will go over that. So these different groups to show you when you just click template groups and you added the device to a template group, for example network devices, these are all the different things that they can be monitored. When you do template groups for operating systems, these are all of the different things that can be monitored with the Zabbix agent on the operating system, and you can add these to your host so that you can monitor different things once it's available. And as you can see here, when I have this is the dashboard now with hosts, where you can see I have all my items are being monitored except this particular R1, and as you can see, problem on R1 or available by ICMP ping. So it's actually telling me that R1 has a problem at a different severity level. Okay, so now we are live on my Zabbix server. Right, I want to make sure everything is working correct. Okay, correct. So now we are on my Zabbix server here. Now we are on templates. I just wanted to show you guys the amount of different templates there are for the Zabbix to monitor. Right, we have a list of different items that you go through for the Zabbix monitor to monitor. You can add all these to your different hosts depending on what it is. As you can see, we use this particular one. Right, this Cisco iOS by SNMP, and it adds all these different. This is the description for it. It's under the templates of network devices. Alright, as you can see on my host live, I can actually go through my router settings live here for you guys. String, everything I showed you guys earlier on. There are a lot more features as well that you can use. As you can see, the discovery for the network, I had this already open for you guys, as you can see. Alright, you can actually get reports, system information, Zabbix server is running, the server version. So practically you can control everything that you want. There's one particular section I wanted to show you guys under hosts. This was something I learned. Under this, you can go to items, and you can actually go through the items that you want to actually go through single-handedly. I enabled all, right? I actually executed all, and these are the different functions that you can get out of the Zabbix monitoring system. There are so many that you can use. You can just click on these, and any one of these, obviously if you have the right interfaces, and you can get information on every single thing that you want. Okay, as we said, this is the templates group. These are the templates, right, as we were seeing before, and this is our dashboard. Right, so right now they're saying 3 are available. I'm sure if I restarted the whole computer or whatever, everything will be back up as normal. Let's just see for myself what is really happening. Data collection, host. It's actually saying all 4 are available. This one is not available as yet. I have to figure out how I can get that over the OSPF, because it's actually seeing it, but I need to figure that out. So that is the completion of my presentation for Zabbix server. Have a good day.